Hello everyone and welcome to Boundless Dentistry. In this video we'll talk about one of the most common cysts that is present in your jaws, in maxilla and mandible, which is the odontogenic keratocyst. Firstly, we'll talk about the basic facts about what is actually an odontogenic keratocyst. Then we'll talk about clinical features, histological features, radiographical features, and some treatment options that are available to treat patients that are suffering from odontogenic keratocyst. So let's get started. Now, firstly, talking about what actually is a cyst. Cyst is a fluid-filled cavity. Now, this fluid that is present in the cavity can either be in the liquid state or it can be in a semi-solid state. Furthermore, the lining of the cyst cavity can either be lined by an epithelium or it may not be lined by an epithelium. Both cases are present. Now, when we focus on odontogenic keratocyst, that is OKC in short form, it is a benign cyst, which means that it is localized and does not invade, which is the characteristic feature of malignancy, a malignant tumor. The origin of odontogenic keratocyst is from odontogenic epithelium. It is parakeratinized. The surface of the OKC is parakeratinized. There is keratin present in the epithelium and it is aggressive along with infiltrative. Now, aggression of this OKC and infiltrative nature may or may not be present, but it is benign, it is of odontogenic origin, and the surface is parakeratinized. These features are present. Previously, OKC was termed as keratinizing cystic odontogenic tumor, but recently this procedure has been reversed and it is again called as odontogenic keratocyst. Now, talking about why odontogenic keratocyst is basically called as odontogenic keratocyst is there is presence of keratin layer. Secondly, the origin of odontogenic keratocyst is from dental lamina. This is important because you have to know from where each cyst arises from. Secondly, the cyst cavity that is present has cheesy material inside. So these features gives the name of OKC, which is odontogenic keratocyst. Now, odontogenic keratocyst is most commonly seen in mandible and maxilla associated with the posterior part of your ramus, and particularly the teeth that are impacted in that particular region, and most commonly the teeth that are present and are impacted in those regions are your mandibular or maxillary third molars. Now, after learning the basic facts about odontogenic keratocyst, now we'll talk about what are the clinical features that a patient presents to us when he or she might have odontogenic keratocyst. Firstly, as you can see in this picture, there is swelling present. Now, this swelling, although present, may or may not be associated with pain. Secondly, you can also see this area, so some discharge may also be present, which can be the yellowish or grayish in color due to the presence of cheesy cholesterol material. Secondly, when the cyst is enlarging, there may be displacement of teeth either anteriorly or posteriorly. This may or may not be present. Then there may be paresthesia or lower lip. Paresthesia is basically abnormal sensation. You can see in this picture that this cyst is present in your mandible, and when it is enlarging, it may damage your inferior alveolar nerve. So when that is the case, paresthesia results, which is abnormal sensation. Moreover, as you can see in this picture, that this plate of the mandible, which is a buccal cortical plate, is expanding. Because the buccal cortical plate is thin as compared to lingual cortical plane, expansion in this direction, in the buccal direction, is most feasible for the cyst. So it expands in the buccal cortical plate's direction. The most common location of this OKC is mandible and particularly ramus, as you can see in this picture also, the most favorable location of OKC. Now, lastly, talking about the peak incidence that the patient may present to us with OKC is third and second decade of life. OKC may occur as an isolated condition, but sometimes it is also associated with other syndromes. Now, certain syndromes that are associated with OKC is Golden-Gold syndrome, Marfan syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, orofacial digital syndrome, and Noonan's syndrome. Although these syndromes may be associated with OKC, but these syndromes are rare. They are not commonly present in a patient. So when OKC is diagnosed, you may or may not look for features representing these syndromes. So because they are rare. Now moving on towards the radiographical features of OKC. Firstly, you can see that the most favorable location or most preferred location of OKC is posterior body of the ramus, which is also similar to dentigerous cyst, because dentigerous cyst also favors this location. And if you look at radiographical feature, it is difficult to distinguish OKC from dentigerous cyst. Now in this radiograph you can see that this tooth is impacted. You can see it is impacted in this direction, and this well-defined radiolucency is present. Now this radiolucency can either be unilocular or multilocular. Both are present in OKC. Secondly, displacement of the teeth can also be present. The adjacent teeth may be displaced, but there is no resorption of the teeth that are present in the region of OKC. And impaction of teeth can also be associated with OKC, which is the case in this radiograph, as you can see. Now, one important feature that distinguishes OKC from other cysts is the expansion pattern of OKC in this radiograph, which you can see. The expansion pattern of most cysts is in a unicentric ballooning pattern, which is expanding in all directions equally. But when you talk about OKC, the expansion pattern in OKC is in anterior posterior direction. In this direction, it expands in anterior direction and posterior direction, but not in other direction. Whereas other cysts, they expand in all directions equally. So this is a distinguishing feature in a radiograph that you must look for if you are determining whether OKC is present or not. Also, you can appreciate in this radiograph that since this impaction and the cyst is present in mandible, there may be some displacement of inferior alveolar nerve. Now, if you look at this radiograph, you may come at a differential diagnosis that, for example, a dentigerous cyst could be present, ameloblastoma could be present, or odontogenic myxoma may be present. Although there is a list of differential diagnoses which you can come up with by looking at this radiograph, but these are some of the common ones when you have OKC in mind. Now moving on towards the histological features of OKC, and these histological features are very important because these features helps us in diagnosing and arriving at a definitive diagnosis. So firstly, as you can see in this histological slide, that this is your epithelium and this is the connective tissue. The epithelium is thin stratified squamous epithelium. As you can see, squamous cells are present over here. Moreover, there are no reti ridges present here in this epithelium, which is a characteristic feature of OKC. Thirdly, you can also appreciate the well-defined palisading cuboidal or columnar basal cells. This is a characteristic tombstone appearance which you can appreciate when you're looking at a slide of OKC. Fourth feature, which is very important, is the surface keratinization. You can see in this histological slides, keratin is present in the topmost layer. So this is parakeratinized epithelium which is present. Now talking about the connective tissue, you can see in the connective tissue it is fibrous in nature and there are no inflammatory cells present, so there is no inflammation of the connective tissue. And lastly and importantly, talking about satellite cysts are present in OKC's epithelium, which are important because these satellite cysts, if present and when you take out an OKC from a cavity, and if they remain in the cavity after you have enucleated or surgically remove the OKC, the presence of satellite cysts leads to reoccurrence of that OKC. So it is important to appreciate the importance of satellite cysts. Cholesterol crystals are also present in the OKC, and cheesy material which is present in the cyst cavity. So far we have talked about histological features of OKC, radiographical features of OKC, and clinical features of OKC. Now let's talk about the differential diagnosis which we can come up with when we are suspecting OKC or other features which might tend to make our definitive diagnosis a bit difficult. So let's divide it into two parts. Firstly, we can arrive at differential diagnosis by looking at the histology. If we look at histology, the differential diagnosis includes myxoma, ameloblastoma, central giant cell granuloma, and odontogenic cyst. Now when we talk about differential diagnosis by looking at the radiograph, we can come up with dentigerous cyst, radicular cyst, lateral periodontal cyst, primordial cyst, globulomaxillary cyst, and unicystic ameloblastoma. Now this differential diagnosis is important because it helps us to achieve the definitive diagnosis if some other pathology is present instead of OKC. Now talking about the different treatment options that are available to a patient that has been diagnosed with OKC, there are certain determinants that we have to keep in mind while we are planning a treatment plan for the patient. Firstly, the age of the patient, the size of the lesion, and location where the lesion is actually present, and the histology of lesion. These helps us in planning the treatment and determining how aggressive, infiltrative, and how expanding the lesion actually is. So when we have taken into consideration all these things, now we take a look at the treatment options that are available and offered to the patient. First is a wide surgical excision. The entire segment of mandible or maxilla where the lesion is present, it is entirely removed. Second is enucleation. You scoop out the cyst that was present in the cyst cavity and you close it. Third is marsupialization, where you take out the cyst in the cavity and then you suture the lining of the cavity with the oral mucosa. Now, each of these treatments have their pros and cons, and we'll talk about each one of them in detail. Now, firstly, talking about surgical resection. Now, in surgical resection, removal of all adjacent structures of where the cyst is present is performed. Either it can be in the maxilla or it can be in the mandible. There is removal of the segment of mandible and maxilla where the cyst is actually present. And when you do so, the continuity is disrupted because you take out the entire bone which was present in the cyst cavity in mandible or maxilla. The continuity of either maxilla or mandible is lost. But the most important advantage of performing surgical resection is that recurrence rate is zero. Now this is the most preferred treatment of OKC because recurrence rate of OKC is very high. And if you do enucleation or marsupialization, there is greater chances of recurrence. So surgical resection is the most important treatment and the most beneficial treatment for a patient with OKC. Now talking about the second treatment option that is available is enucleation. Now in enucleation, there is removal of the tumoriformis envelope. As you can see in this diagram, this is a tooth that was associated with OKC, and then you scoop it out of the cavity and you remove it from its entire cavity. Now enucleation is associated with high recurrence rate, around 30 to 35%. There will be reoccurrence in enucleation. Because the thin wall of OKC that is present and which is friable, when you perform enucleation, there are chances that this thin wall will break, and when it breaks, the remnants of this OKC might be left in the cavity, especially satellite cyst, which is associated with high recurrence rates. Sometimes you can use cornoid solution when you scoop it out this entire cyst and you place cornoid solution inside it. Recurrence rate decreases as compared to not using cornoid solution. Now talking about the steps that are used for performing enucleation, firstly you administer local anesthesia so that patient doesn't feel anything. Most commonly pain, that pain is removed, other sensation might be present. Secondly, you use mucoperiosteal flap. You raise the mucoperiosteal flap so that you can gain access to the bone. Then you remove the part of the bone where cyst is present so that you can gain access to the cyst. As you can see in this picture, the bone is removed and now you have access to the cyst cavity. Now you use your instruments to scoop out this cyst and you make sure that the thin walls are not teared, because if they are teared, there will be chances that the cyst might occur again. And when you have successfully removed the cyst out of the cavity and then you suture it, achieve primary intention healing. So this is all about how enucleation is present, but enucleation has its major disadvantage of high recurrence. Surgical resection has zero recurrence, so it is more preferred as compared to enucleation. Now the last treatment option that is available for the patient with OKC is marsupialization. In marsupialization, a window is created, particularly 1 centimeter window is created into the cyst, and the lining is sutured to the oral mucosa, and this is the surgical window through which the cyst cavity contents are removed. Firstly, you place a surgical incision first, but before that, radiographically you look at where actually the cyst is present, and then using circular incision, as you can see in this diagram, mucoperiosteum is removed. Now when you remove the mucoperiosteum, you gain access to the bone, and when you gain access to the bone, you drill it and you create a surgical window around of 1 centimeter, and when you do so, you can see where the cyst is present, and when you remove the cyst contents, you suture the cavity lining along with oral mucosa so that a pouch-like structure is created and the contents of the cavity is drained out. Now this is kept for 1 week and irrigations are performed for 1 week so that normal healing can occur, and the cyst cavity, it is packed with iodoform gauze so that healing can occur more properly. And you can see how this gauze is placed over here and healing is occurring. So this is all about how marsupialization is performed. Now lastly, talking about which factors are actually associated with high recurrence rate of OKC. Firstly, there is incomplete removal of the cyst lining. Secondly, the friable nature of the epithelium, as we have talked before, the thin capsule that is surrounding the OKC, it's friable to break. So you have to make sure that it does not occur. Thirdly, there is bony perforation, because as the cyst is expanding, it leads to its perforation in bones, and when you do not completely remove the entire lesion, there are high chances of recurrence. Then there is high cellular activity. High cellular activity means that the tumor or the cyst in this case is aggressive. So when it is aggressive, there are high chance of recurrence. Then there is budding in the basal layer and satellite cyst. These features lead to high recurrence rate of this odontogenic keratocyst. So this was all about odontogenic keratocyst. Firstly, we talked about the basic facts about what actually is an odontogenic keratocyst. Then we talked about clinical features of odontogenic keratocyst, then radiographical features of odontogenic keratocyst, histology of OKC, differential diagnosis of OKC, and then finally we talked about how we actually treat a patient with OKC. So I hope this video was useful for you, and if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Thank you for watching this video. See you next time.